And next up, what we're going to talk about is talent management. Now, this is a new NADA seminar, so I want you to get excited about this because this is new content that NADA is going to be delivering. And to help me talk more about it, I'd like to welcome up Megan Dolan, who is the Director of Program Development with NADA. Megan, come on up. Hello, welcome. I'm doing wonderful. There you are. You're welcome. Right. I go through that myself. Have so many things and not enough hands. All right. So first off, welcome. Glad to have you here on Sunday Fun Day, right? Do me a favor, introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit more about your role, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the new seminar.
Errol introduced me. I'm Megan Dolan. My team develops the curriculum materials for all the classes that NADA offers. So that includes the academy, the professional series, and the courses that we take on the road. We also develop some of the internal presentations that are delivered here at Show.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that role and maybe a little bit more about your background.
I have a doctorate in education and have been working in adult education for over 2 decades, and came to NADA about 6 years ago, and I'm an academy graduate.
Now, you know the thing I wonder about adult education? Is there really a big difference between adult education and child education at times?
The nice thing about adult education is that they are normally there on their own free will.
Ah, that's true. Okay.
So they're invested in it. And part of what we'll talk about today is why dealers should be invested in this course.
Absolutely. So let's first off talk a little bit about the course. And I know you said that this is a new offering from NADA. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So how did that come about? Because one of the things we talked about with the education escalator was that a lot of it is based on hand raising from dealers or others that have been part of other programming from NADA that have a need to say, hey, we would like to incorporate this. Was this kind of developed in the same sense where we heard from our dealers or participants?
Absolutely. We listen to our academy instructors. We listen to our 20 group consultants. They are our front line who have contact with our members all the time. Our board of directors members brought it up. We've been hearing it for a couple of years now, and we decided it was time to respond.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about the talent management course specifically. What are some of the focuses of the course?
Okay. It's a 2-day course in person. It's activity-based, and the students will get to practice by developing job aids while they're in the classroom that they can take home and use in the dealership. They'll develop interview questions, job descriptions, and onboarding plans, among other tools that they can use right away. It follows the 5 steps of the employment cycle, which are recruiting, hiring, onboarding, developing, and retaining. And it views them through the lens of culture and engagement.
Wonderful. Now, it sounds like just from looking at the description, this would kind of be more geared towards maybe the HR department, but do you recommend other departments of the dealership also kind of go through this course?
We do, especially with the smaller dealerships where they may not have an HR department, but even the larger dealerships, we're looking at dealers, general managers, anybody who does a lot of hiring and managing their employees.
So really, it sounds like this is a great addition for anybody, like you said, that's involved in that hiring process because, like you said, it's not just all the weight on one department, but sometimes it is a collaborative effort, especially because you might go through 1 or 2 or 3 different interviews, meaning that you might see more than one person. So
correct.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, with that, why did you discover, why did NADA discover that there was an important need for this new talent management?
Well, dealers have known that talent management is important for a long time, but it's very hard for them to go through each of the steps without a clear strategy,
Okay.
and that's what this course will focus on. It also will give them a way to approach culture and engagement in their dealership so it's connected to all parts of the employment cycle.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned specifically talking about like the steps that are involved. So it sounds like, I know you kind of alluded to it there, but are there specific steps or phases that you've identified that are part of the new talent management?
Yeah, we circle back around. We start with recruiting. and that's a huge challenge right now, as all dealers will tell you.
Yes.
There's a number of challenges that they face. There's the stigma associated with the car business, which we've been talking about for years and haven't made a whole lot of progress in improving. The commission-based salary is difficult for a lot of employees, especially the younger generation, and some dealers are moving along to address that, but we need to find other ways to deal with that situation. Dealers haven't always made great strides in terms of developing relationships with their local educational organizations, their high schools, their community colleges, and those are great tools to get folks into the pipeline for jobs at the dealership. And there's still a negative connotation associated with vocational technical jobs, which makes it particularly challenged for fixed jobs. We all know there's a technician shortage. Service advisors have among the highest turnover in the dealership, so we need to look at those issues. The other issue is the college track. A lot of young people are always under pressure to attend college. I have a doctorate, I have obnoxious education, but it's not for everybody. The current graduation rate is 63%. This means that after 6 years, only 2/3 of the students graduated from a four-year institution.
Wow.
The debt rate is 1.75 for student loans, trillion for student loans in the United States, and that's $30,000 on average per student. So we offer a great opportunity at dealerships for students to be successful and to grow and become whatever they want, but we don't tell that story very well.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, I think between just the first two phases that you mentioned, there's a ton that we can unpack there. But let's start first talking about that stigma, right? Because I think, how do we, because like you said, we don't message it well. Like and I think one of the things with NADA is we try to offer as many resources to help push that message along. And then with the education escalator and some of the courses and seminars that are offered, it helps, right? But how do we collectively kind of first push that stigma to the side to be able to message and say, hey, there's an opportunity here, whether you graduated college or didn't graduate college, but we want to introduce you to this career that can help you in that success track. How do we overcome that stigma?
Well, there's a couple of strategies right off the top of my head. The partnerships with the schools and the communities are great tools. Most dealerships are doing fabulous things in their community, and they don't always do a terrific job of getting the word out about it. They do charity events, they do open houses, they do coat drives, they do all sorts of things that serve the community beyond the business.
Right.
And especially with the younger generations, they're looking for businesses and organizations that embrace a vision, that have meaning, that are looking to do things beyond the bottom line. So if we can emphasize that story, it would help a lot. The other thing is getting the word out about the opportunities that are beyond the obvious ones.
Okay.
Like we have warranty administrator, we have parts consultant, we have parts manager, we have service advisor, and those are jobs that you can make a very good living at. We just don't.
Nobody knows.
There's no book. I want to be a service advisor when I grow up.
Right.
And if we can start telling that story better, we'd be in a better position. I
agree with you. I agree. And we've actually seen a lot of what you're talking about, even highlighted here on this stage. Like yesterday, we focused on philanthropy and had the pitch competition with certain dealers that were doing that community engagement and, giving back. But then also, just from a personal standpoint, what you're talking about from the employee front of wanting to be in an organization that has a culture, that has a care. I've seen it personally. I have an 18-year-old daughter who quit a job because she was like, oh, I don't like the way the manager talked to me. I didn't like, and that's the younger generation now. It's not like when, we had our first job and we're like, well, this is my first job. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to deal with it. And that was that. It's like, no, I don't like it. I didn't feel respected. I didn't feel appreciated, and she came home and said she wants respect but didn't give me respect. And I think that is a big testament of what we're seeing with the employee front now, is that they want to be part of a culture that isn't just about the bottom line, like you mentioned. So why should dealers care more about the cultural engagement and education and courses and seminars such as this?
Well, we know that culture is important. I've got some data I can share with you. Let me get to it. Gallup has done some great research. 95% of candidates said that culture is more important than compensation.
Wow.
96% of leaders believe it impacts the bottom line, but they spend 76% of their time on strategy instead. 62% of employees who quit cite a toxic culture.
Yeah.
And businesses with thriving cultures are twice as likely to have increased revenues.
Wow.
So it's good for the organization and the community of that organization. It's also good for their bottom line. So we know that. We also know that engagement, organizations, 33% of employees are engaged. Only 33%.
Wow.
The data shows that 2/3 of your employees are willing to walk across the street for comparable salary, not necessarily an increase,
Right.
but comparable salary and responsibilities because they're not really engaged at your business. Businesses with more engaged workers have lower turnover, higher sales productivity, and bingo, higher profits.
Yeah.
So we know it's important. We just don't pay attention to it because we don't know how. We don't have specific strategies that we can implement with an action plan. This is what I'm going to do every day to make sure that my culture is good and my employees are engaged. And the course focuses on that at each step of the employment cycle.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's important with creating that culture is really starting with the end in mind. I think if we all think about what we personally want, from that leadership perspective, or what makes us feel, welcomed, or why we buy certain brands or go to certain places, it is just that. Like, oh, I go here because they have good service, or I go here because they remember my name, or whatever that little thing is that makes us kind of continue to go back. We need to start employing that in our own culture and not just thinking like, oh, well, you're getting paid, so you know what I mean? It has to be more than just, like you said, the bottom line and a paycheck.
Right.
So, okay, so this is great information, and we've got about a little bit less than a minute, but tell us when this course is going to be available and where everybody out there can find out more information about how to sign up.
Okay, here we go. We're launching the course May 16th and 17th at our headquarters in Tysons, Virginia. If you have our education subscription, which is a great value, it includes our professional series, it includes our seminars, it's part of that package. If not, it's $14.95, which for a 2-day course is a pretty good deal.
Yes.
If you're interested in signing up for the class, the NADA Pavilion is right inside the expo there, and we'd love to see you come by and talk about it.
Absolutely, and I think it's imperative. It's definitely needed. So for everyone out there, if you want more information about it, like Megan said, definitely go in, check out the booth. You're here anyway. Go check it out, or log in online, check out the information if you're not here with us physically, and make sure you get that information because culture is important. Megan, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely. My pleasure.